One of the strangest parts of growth in the manifesting state is that it does not always feel exciting. Sometimes growth feels like disconnection. You stop enjoying things that used to define you. You stop needing people who used to matter more. You stop chasing what once felt urgent. And instead of calling that growth, you start wondering if something is wrong. That is where many people get confused, because when an old version of life stops fitting, there is often a gap before the new version feels natural, and that gap can feel like failure. For example, you may stop wanting the same conversations, the same environments, the same attention, the same habits, but because you do not fully feel new yet, you assume you are just lost. Or maybe a goal that once obsessed you suddenly does not carry the same emotional charge. And instead of seeing that as a shift in identity, you think you became lazy. Or maybe people around you still expect the older version of you. The more reactive you, the more available you, the more insecure you, the version of you who tolerated what no longer fits. And when you stop performing that identity, everything can feel unfamiliar for a while. That is the part people rarely prepare for. Outgrowing an old life can feel empty before it feels right, because even unhealthy familiarity can feel comforting. Old patterns gave you a role. Old environments gave you a script. Old relationships gave you a predictable version of yourself. So when that starts breaking apart, the absence of that pattern can feel like something is missing, not because you need it back, because your system has not fully adjusted yet. This shows up in small ways. You walk into rooms and feel less interested. You scroll through things that used to hook you and feel nothing. You hear certain conversations and realize you cannot fully participate the way you used to. You try to go back mentally, and something in you does not fit there anymore. That can feel lonely. That can feel confusing. That can even feel like regression. But it is often the opposite. Sometimes the reason the old life feels harder to return to is because you already outgrew it. The manifesting state can feel like this too. Not always dramatic, not always emotional. Sometimes the biggest sign of change is that your old identity stops feeling natural. And because the old identity is fading, the old desires, fears, reactions, and attachments start fading with it. But before the new self feels fully embodied, there is often a strange middle space. You are not who you were, but you do not completely feel like who you are becoming yet. That middle space is uncomfortable, but it is not meaningless. It is a transition, and transitions rarely feel as clean as people imagine. That is why growth should not always be measured by excitement. Sometimes growth is measured by what no longer pulls you back, what no longer triggers you, what no longer defines you, what no longer feels like home. So if your old life has felt strangely distant lately, take a moment with that. You may not be failing. You may be leaving behind an identity that no longer belongs to you. And when that happens, the in-between can feel awkward before the new self feels solid. That is not failure. That is movement. Subscribe and enter your manifesting state.